The clone tool in GIMP allows you to paint in sections of the canvas by referencing other sections of your image. This is really useful if you're trying to add or remove things from a photograph, let's say. So let's take a look at how it works. Select the clone tool from the toolbox, and you'll come down and you'll see that the first few tool options are similar to all the paint tool options. We've got the blending mode, which tells GIMP how you want what you are painting into the image to interact with what is already there. By leaving it in normal, it just allows you to paint over everything without any sort of interaction taking place. We've got the opacity mode, which tells GIMP how transparent or opaque you want what you're painting on the canvas to be. You can select your brush that just determines how soft the edges and the shapes and things like that. You set the size of the brush, the aspect ratio of the brush if you want to make it wider or taller, and the angle if you want to tilt it a little bit of an angle. We've also got the dynamics option, which is sort of a complex feature that GIMP offers that allows you to use the way in which you are painting to affect the final results of the painting. And these options are all gone over in more detail under the pencil and paintbrush tools, so you can reference those if you want more information about these options. We've also got apply jitter, which gives you a little bit of randomness in the line, makes your lines a little bit randomly bumpy. We've got the smooth, which helps smooth out your lines. And we've got the hard edge, which will turn your brush from, even though it's got a nice soft edge here, it will make it a nice hard edge. And again, these options are gone over in more detail under the pencil and pen paintbrush tools. So let's look at what makes the clone tool unique. So first we need to select a source. If we select the image, it means we will be referencing part of our image to fill in another part of the image. As with a number of tools, we have the sample merged option. If we select this, it tells GIMP that we want it to use what is visible to us and not just what is on the current active layer. I'll just leave that unchecked for now, but we can check it if we want to sample images across multiple layers. So let's take a look at how it works. First, we come over to our image and we decide what we want to reference. So in this case, if I wanted to, say, duplicate this red square with the green border and yellow and black stripes, I would come over here, I would pick a starting point, and then I would have to press Command and click. And when I do that, I've set an anchor point on the image. This is the starting reference point. Now, when I move my cursor, you'll see that that reference point stays marked, but I've also got my brush as well. And when I click and start painting, you'll see that it references that starting reference point, and I can draw out from there. Now in this first default mode, the alignment is set to none, which means that every time I stop painting and start a new brush stroke, it reverts back to the original anchor point. If we wanted it to track my brush stroke in relation to the original anchor point regardless of if I am stopping or starting the brush stroke, we can set it to the aligned mode. So in this mode, we'll just undo this and we'll reset our anchor point. In this mode, I can draw and paint, and then even if I stop painting and start somewhere else, it won't revert back to the original anchor point, but the point at which I started painting will always be the anchor point in relationship to the reference anchor point. We've got another mode here that is the registered mode. This allows you to copy between layers and even between images in GIMP. So let me just undo this here. So in this case, if I were to drop my anchor point by pressing Command and clicking, and then we were to switch to a different layer, let's make this visible, we can come back and we can start painting right over the top of it. And you don't see a difference because it's the same thing one on top of another, but if I were to hide the reference layer, you'll see that I'm actually painting it in on this new layer. So let's just undo that. And then we'll look at the final option, which is fixed. This basically uses the reference point to create a custom pen tip, or paintbrush tip you could think of it as. So if we click here, and then we come down here and we start drawing, it will only use that reference point. So that reference point will just oh, I'm on the wrong layer here. So let's try that again. We'll drop our reference point, and when we start drawing, it will only use that reference point, and it will just keep repeating it over and over again as we draw it out. The final option with the clone tool is to use a pattern instead of a reference of the image. So we can click on the pattern, and then we can go through and we can select one predefined pattern, or we can make custom patterns. So with this leopard print pattern selected, we can go and we can switch this back to aligned. And when we start drawing, it will just draw the leopard print pattern from the pattern sample. So those are the major uses of the clone tool. It's a powerful tool, but it's a tool that requires a bit of practice to get good at using.